Hi guys, and welcome to UWrench. We have here a Chrysler Town & Country and we want to install a remote starter into this vehicle. And so we did a load of research online as to the various makes of remote starters that are out there, and we came across this brand, which is StartX. And so we contacted StartX and they very kindly supplied us with this remote starting kit to be fitted into this vehicle. What we really liked about the StartX kits is they are all designed specifically for DIY installations. This is definitely something you can do yourself at home. And these kits really are simple to install. Don't believe me? Let's have a look. So let's take a look at what you get when you buy a StartX remote starter. So first of all, most importantly, we get a main control unit. And then we have the main cable, and what's great about this is it's a pre-made harness, so we don't need to cut or solder any wires during the installation. It's a simple plug and play. And you also get a load of cable ties for securing everything in place. And you also get a hood latch sensor switch, which is not required for the basic installation, but is a nice optional extra should you want it. And the set even comes with its own plastic trim removal tool to help make things even easier for you during the installation. And last but not least, we have an installation sticker and a user manual. Everything you need for a DIY installation. So the first thing we need to do is actually need to remove this panel, which is on the end of the dashboard on the driver's side. And thankfully, to make life a little bit easier, StartX actually include this in their kits. This is a trim removal tool. And so for the removal of this panel, it's got 4 clips dotted around the outside, and down this edge here on the left hand side, it actually tucks behind the trim on the doorpost. So what you want to do is to get your fingers just in here. That'll help you draw it forward a little bit, make a little bit of space just to get your plastic trim tool in there. Once the trim tool's in there, just use it as a lever and gently lever forward. And remember, there's 4 clips, so that one's detached, that one's detached, and that one's detached. The trickiest one is right up here in this top corner. And for this one, what you want to try and do is get your fingers in as close to the clip as possible and just continue pulling it forward until it pops out. And then if you angle it, the whole thing should pop out from behind the door trim. So that's that panel removed. So put that out of the way. And for our lower panel, we've got some plastic fasteners. You can see there's one right here on the side, and there's another one right down here, just next to your hood release switch. And there's a third clip just here next to your center console. And to get these out, they've got a little cutout on either side. So you can just sneak your trim tool in there and just start to prise it forward. So you just want to pull out that center pin. And you should be able to work the outer one forward, and that will just pop out like so. So now we've removed that one, we've got to do that exactly the same on the 2 other clips. Remember that we've got one tucked just down around here, and the other one is on the other side in towards your center console. And so on the panel here, we've got a few more of these clips, just like we had on that dashboard end panel. So we need to work these across from the outside inwards. So if you just flex it, you kind of feel where the clip is. It's right around there. There's 2 released there. Come across to the other side, and be careful when you remove this, because this cowl for the steering wheel here is actually attached in to this panel. And once we've got the clips along the top free, we've got another clip just down in here at the bottom. And so to detach the cowl, it's on a plastic frame. What you want to do is just push down on the inside of the plastic frame, pushing straight down back in towards the center of the panel. Like that. I'm just going to lower the panel down. I'm just going to leave it in that position. We do have the hood release here, and we also have the diagnostic port there. Just to make it a little bit easier and give you a bit more access, you can usually, if you bend this a little bit, you can usually manipulate it to get it down past your parking brake cable, and you can get it to sit on the floor, so you've got a bit more room to work in. So next up, we've got this metal panel here. It's held in with 4 little screws and these are a size 7, and apparently it is possible to fit your StarTex remote starter without removing this panel. However, removing this panel is definitely going to make the job a lot easier and give us a lot more access. For the sake of undoing the 4 screws, we're going to get it out of the way. So for our next step, we're going to be dropping the knee airbag down, but before we do that, we want to make sure that it's completely safe to work on the airbag system. And so to allow us to do that, there's a standard safety procedure for working on airbags in your vehicle. So what we want to do is disconnect the negative terminal on your battery here. You want to leave the positive connected, but just disconnect your negative. And with that negative disconnected, your airbag can't fire. Your airbag needs both connections to be able to fire. And the reason that we leave the positive connected rather than disconnect the battery completely is because by leaving this connected, all of your vehicle settings are going to be stored. So you're not going to lose things like your radio security code or anything like that. As long as you leave the positive connected, you'll be absolutely fine. So with our bolts removed, I just gently slide this forward. And you do have an electrical connector over on the right hand side there, so just be careful with that. Just drop the panel down and rest it so it's safe. Remember not to put too much stress on your electrical connector just there. So now we've got everything stripped down and the airbag is nice and safe. What we're going to do is we're going to reconnect our negative terminal so we can go ahead and start the programming for our StarTex unit. Okay, so next if you have a look under your dash, noting where this metal frame is, if you have a look up underneath there, you'll see an electrical connector. And the connector that we're looking for is this one just up here next to this metal frame. And you should just about be able to see it's got a little tab on the top that you need to squeeze in to be able to remove this plug. Okay, so what you want to do is you want to squeeze down on the top of that tab and start giving it a bit of a wiggle. It can be quite tight, there he comes. So that is the plug that we're looking for. So next you want to grab the loom that comes with your StarTex kit. If you have a quick look at this loom, on one end of it all of these smaller connectors, and these are the ones that are going to be plugged into the little control unit that comes with the StarTex kit. And then on the other end of the cable, what we have is we have one plug and one socket. This is what makes this kit really good and really easy to install. We're not having to cut any wires, we're not having to solder anything, we're not having to mess about. We've got this loom that's pre-made and ready to go. So what we want to do is take the socket on our loom here, and that's going to be our plug for our ignition. I'm going to want to plug that into the socket, make sure that clicks in firmly into place. And so we've got that safely secured. So next we've got our plug here, and what we want to do with our plug is plug that back into the socket where we originally removed our plug, just up here. And remember that our little security tab that holds it in place was at the top. So that's exactly, that orientation there is exactly how I want to plug this in. I'm just going to plug that straight into the little socket we had where we removed the plug originally. So that end of the cable is now finished. We've now got these 4 connectors which need to be connected in to our control module. However, the first one that we need to plug in is actually this black one, and we need to do this whilst holding down the program button on our control module. So on the side of our control module, all of these connectors are color coded, and this is where our black one's going to go, in this little section right here. And we also on the side here have a small button, which is the programming button. And on the top of our unit just here, we've got these 3 little LEDs. So what we're going to do is we're going to hold down our programming button, and then we will plug in our black cable. And once we've done that, these LEDs will change color. And we want to keep that button held down until we get just a single solid blue LED. So hold down the button and we'll plug in our black connector. And then let it go when we have just the single solid blue LED. So now we can go ahead and we can start plugging in the rest of our cables. So next what we want to do is insert our key, turn that into position 2, which is the position before starting the engine. Once we've done that, our little LED here, which is currently a solid blue, should start flashing quickly. And once we see that flash, we turn the key back and remove it. And then what we do is we press on our remote control the lock button, and once we press the lock button, the LED should go off. So insert the key, turn it once and again, and there's the fast flashing LED. So now we can turn the key back and remove it, and then we want to press the lock button once on our remote control. As we can see, our LED has now gone out. So in theory, that is our installation complete. All we've got to do is tidy this away. However, before we do that, it's always a good idea, of course, to make sure that it's actually functioning as expected. So what we can do is we can press the lock button 3 times on our remote control, and that should, in theory, activate the remote starter and the engine should start. As you can see, if you press the lock again 3 times, it will shut the engine off. Okay, so that essentially finishes the installation of our StartX remote starter. All we need to do is tidy up some of those wirings and start to put everything back together. And that standard kit will allow you to start your vehicle remotely using your standard key by pressing the lock button 3 times. However, for this particular installation, we actually wanted the option to be able to start the car remotely using a separate key fob. And this is where StartX have come up trumps again, because although they don't actually manufacture their own separate RF kit, they've ensured that their standard kits are fully compatible with 14 branded products. And so what we've got here is the RFK 411 set from 14, which comes with 2 separate key fobs, and this is only around $63 on Amazon. And as before, we will be adding Amazon links for this particular upgrade into the video description below. So if you're interested in the RF kit upgrade, be sure to check out those links. And remember that this is an entirely optional extra. This is not included with the standard set from StartX. This is a separate kit manufactured by 14, but it is fully compatible with the StartX system. So you may well be asking yourself, why do I need a separate key fob if I can already remote start using my standard key? And the answer to that, it depends entirely how you wish to operate the kit. If you wish to just remote start your car, maybe to have it warm up in the morning, and you can just zap it from the kitchen, the car starts ready for you to get in, then you won't need a separate key fob. However, where these can be useful, for example, is if you and your partner go into town and you both separate, go off to get your haircut, someone else goes shopping, so you meet you back at the car in 45 minutes, one person's likely to get back to the car before the other. And if the weather's either absolutely roasting or absolutely freezing, as it does both here in Canada, then you don't really want to be standing outside the car for very long. So you take the standard key, give your partner the separate key fob, and go your separate ways. So then whoever gets back to the car first, it doesn't matter, they can still unlock that car, they can start that car, and they can switch on either the aircon or the heating, and they can sit there in comfort whilst they're waiting for the other person. So these definitely do have an advantage depending on what your particular requirements are for your system. And so we are going to be installing this optional add-on right now. I'm going to show you the full process for that. If however you're not interested in that, you can skip ahead and we can put the car back together, get the job done. So our RF kit comes with 2 separate remote controls, and it comes with its own additional wiring loom, and it also comes with the antenna. See, we've actually got a hidden away plug. It's marked RF kit just at the back here. We've actually got a blue plug just at the back of our loom here. And so all we need to do is connect the blue plug on our loom onto the blue plug on our cable, and then the black plug goes into the antenna for our RF kit. So the process for programming this is a little bit different to the process that we used doing the StartX control unit. So to program this, we need to put the key in and turn it to the second position, ignition on, then back to ignition off, then back to ignition on again, and we should get the LED on our antenna here should illuminate. And then we need to press and release the brake pedal 4 times, after which our LED should start to flash. And once it's flashing, we're in programming mode, and so we take our additional remote control and we need to hold this down, and we want to continue to hold that button down until our LED goes off and then comes back on solid. At which point we can release the button on our remote control, and then that's programmed. And if you want to program a second remote control, you use exactly the same process. And when you've finished, ignition off and remove the key. On, off, on. and then ignition off. So to test the remotes on our optional kit, if you press it once it should lock the car, twice to unlock, and if you hold the button down it should remote start. If you hold the button down again it should stop. So that one's definitely working. Now we'll test the second fob. Once to lock, twice to unlock, and hold it to start. And hold it to stop. So as we can see, we have a successful installation here, so we can go ahead and move on to the next stage, which is just getting this nice and tidy. So here's quite a nice place to install the unit on this this metal bracket just here. These are the cable ties that came with it. I found I had to connect 2 cable ties together to fit all the way around. What I've done at the back there, I've just made sure that the cables have been pulled to the front, and I've cable tied them down onto the front here, so there's nothing protruding on the back there. It seems to fit quite nicely in that space. It's got no wobble in it. It's nice and firm in there, so that's definitely quite a nice little place to do it. And I put one cable tie here and another one further up here, and again with these wires here I've fed them through and clamped them there as well. Cable tied the cables here, coming up the ignition cable here, cable tied around the top, cable tied here. Basically you just want to keep everything nice and tight and snug, and you definitely don't want anything coming below this frame, because below this frame is where the airbag, the knee airbag sits. So we don't want to be messing with anything. Everything that we want to do is got to be above that metal frame and tucked in nice and tight. And so here's our control module, all cable tied nicely into place around this metal frame. We do have the optional RF kit fitted, which is this loom that you see, and also that light flashing at the top is the antenna for the optional RF unit, which you don't need. It is purely optional. The StarTex unit is just here under these cable ties. When you cable tie these in, just spend 15-20 minutes just getting it nice and tidy. Remember, we do have an airbag under this frame, so we don't want anything under this frame. Everything's got to be above this frame and tucked in nice and tightly. So you've got all these cable ties all the way around, just keeping everything snug and in place. So now we're going to go ahead and we're going to reinstall the knee airbag. However, before we do that, we want to follow the standard safety procedure for working on the airbags once again. And so we are going to disconnect our negative battery terminal and again leave that positive one connected. Okay, so now ready to put this back together. So be careful with your wiring right here. Carefully lift that up, and these little corners here are lifted up slightly, and they're actually going to fit on top of these little plates just there. So let's be careful of the electrical connector. Put them on and just slide that backwards, and then just to hold it in place, get a couple of these screws started. Then we can go ahead and just get these all 4 of these tightened up. And when you're doing this, just be sure to lift up your cowl and have a little look in here, and you can see the screws come through. Just make sure that they're not too close to any of the wiring that you've cable tied in place on the inside there. And once you've got all 4 in place, snug them up. Don't over tighten them, they're only small screws. You want them nice and snug. So now everything's back together and we've completely finished working on the airbag. I'm going to put this terminal, your negative terminal, back on and get that snugged up. So I'm just going to manipulate my trim again to get it back above my pedal here. So our next stage is we need to attach the frame, this white plastic frame on the bottom of our cowl, back into this frame on our lower panel. Get the middle one in first. what we want to try and do is line it up. A little bit tricky because the space is tight. So the outer ones you can kind of feel click in. If you need to double check the middle one, you can go through this little hole here. Just make sure that that's snapped in as well. If you're not sure whether it's in, try pushing it back out again. It should be nice and snug. Yeah, that's definitely in place. Now remember, on the console side we've got this little clip down at the bottom here. That's the first one to try and get in. Make sure we just fold the cowl in, so it's not going to be on the outside when we clip this back into place. And on this top clip next to it, it's got like a plastic pin. Just make sure you get that lined up. Make sure your cowls looks good, and then pop that clip in. Then come around to the other side. Remember, we've got these two clips just in here. And when you do this, make sure that this is on the outside. You don't want that slipping on the inside. Like that. You've got to make sure that that is definitely on the outside when you put those clips in. So next, remember, we had these 3 plastic clips. So just want to put these back in. Remember, you only need the female half at this stage. And also remember the one on the side there as well. And then grab the male pin and just feed that in. Now they do have an orientation, so if it doesn't go in, first of all turn it, and then you'll find the point that will go in, and you push it all the way up, and it kind of double clicks. So next we want to refit our end panel trim. To do that, we're going to tuck the end of this in behind this trim just here. And remember, this top one is the trickiest one to get in, so that's the one we want to focus in putting in first. So we'll just tuck the edge of our trim in behind the seal here. And we're looking to get this top clip in first. And once we've got that one lined up, just get all of the others lined up. Once you're happy, give it a bit of a push. And just pop those clips in. So there we have it. That is the StartX system completely installed and working in our vehicle. This system really is plug and play, and that whole process can probably be done in probably about an hour. In all honesty, the part that takes the most time is dropping down those panels. Once you've got them out of the way, it's dead easy to put this in. So StartX are definitely doing excellent work with these kits, and they are aimed specifically at DIY users. So with a kit like this, you can have full remote start for your vehicle for about $140. It's definitely money well spent if you want to add remote start into your vehicle, and you're definitely not going to get it any cheaper than this. So $140 and an hour of your time, you're going to save yourself hundreds of dollars against getting other systems professionally installed into your vehicle. And please do remember that we will be adding Amazon links into the video description below. And we will be adding links for this particular kit, which is for the Grand Caravan or the Town and Country, as well as additional links for StartX systems for other makes and models. And also there you will find the link for the Fortin RFK 411, which is the optional remote starter kit that's fully compatible with our StartX system. So if you are interested in getting one of these kits, please be sure to help support what we do here at uWrench, and be sure to use our links in that video description below. And we really do hope that this video does inspire you to go ahead and fit one of these kits yourself. It really is easy and you won't regret it. And as ever, if this video has been helpful or entertaining for you, can you take 1 second out of your busy schedule, please be sure to hit that like button before you leave us here on YouTube. Thank you for watching, we appreciate it, we'll see you in the future.